and these appear to be working. Perfect. Okay. Again. Me? Oh. Welcome back to Hustings for the Executive Elections 2016. We are here with our candidates for the President. We have one candidate, Dillon Grace. The format for this will be similar to the last ones. If you have any questions for the candidates, put up your hand, put them on a slip of paper, put up your hand, and Matthew and Donald will pick them up alongside. If you have any points of information or he says something wrong, put up your hand. If he doesn't answer your question fully enough, he can give the answer the way you don't like it. But if he's not answered fully enough, again, make him elaborate. We're going to get started with a 3-minute introduction from Dillon, or up to 3 minutes. When you're ready.
Perfect. I'm going to stand up for this. Hi everyone, my name is Dillon Grace. I'm 23 years old. I graduated from Maynooth last year, my degree in law. I'd be proud to serve as your MSU President, so I'm looking for your vote on next Wednesday. I have 6 main areas that I think are vitally important for the Students Union, and I'll briefly go through those and hopefully get a few questions from you throughout the night. So my first key area is student representation. The reason we're a union is because we represent you. We need to hear what your concerns are, and we need to represent them. So whether it's listening to concerns of a single student about something that the union is doing or not doing, or whether it's about representing a single student to a department or a group of students to a university, that's what we're here for. We're a collective body for representative. I think that needs to be stronger here. We have a class rep system, we have a union council, we have clubs and stocks council, but they need to be solidified. The changes I've brought in, are going to be proposing to bring in for the academic reps, is as a long-term plan. I initially started it out as the Vice President for Education, but I'm going to need to see this plan through. Year 1 was planning and trying to get the plan implemented. The second stage, once approved, will actually be implementing the plan, and that will take some time. There's going to be around 143 academic reps, and there'll be up to 44 senators. If it's passed, I've created 18 new positions for students of the university to get involved with their union, whether it be on campus life, LGBT areas, green campus initiatives, or a wide range of areas that are open to students, or just generally if you just want to get involved in how your union is run, there is a place for you. So I feel like we need to have a stronger student voice when we're liaising with the university. My second point is to safeguard MSU funding. The Students' Union runs on a limited budget, and we provide a lot of services to the 11,000 students of Maynooth on those limited funds. Now you might say, are those funds under threat? I say yes, they are. We haven't received a cut in funding in over 5 years, and now is the time where we're beginning to be put under pressure to look at our funding and to see where it's being spent. I want to make sure that the funding doesn't go down. We need to look after our clubs and stocks with the newly elected VP for Club Societies and Student Engagement. We need to make sure that there's money there for welfare issues for the Vice President for Welfare and Equality. We need to make sure that the Education Office can run his campaigns, but we need money to do this. So I'm going to ensure that when I'm representing you with the University Executive or the Governing Authority, that our funding does not go down. Currently there is a situation where the university does not want our funding to be aligned with increasing student numbers. However, that's a strategic point for the university, as they've entered into an agreement or a compact with the Higher Education Authority to increase their numbers year on year up until at least 2019. If our funding is not aligned with student numbers, over the next 5 years up to 2019, the union will miss out on €923,000. That's around €200,000 a year that the union would receive less in funding. And just imagine where we could put those resources. Another point is transparency. I've talked about our funding, and it's your money that we're spending on your behalf. You need to see where it goes. The union needs to be able to publish all signed off audited accounts on its website so that you know how much we received, how much we're spending on different areas, and what it is in those areas that the money is going towards. I've gotten assurances from the Accounts Office that all signed off audited accounts from previous years are eligible to be published, and we have no issue with putting them up online. And as for this year's accounts, because they're not signed off, they won't get to go up, but we can always work a year back. It's just the way the accounting thing works. Am I stuck for time? I have some other areas like communication. The union does some great and fantastic things, and unfortunately sometimes you don't always get to see them. So I want to make sure I work with the newspaper editor, whether with the clubs and stocks offices, whether they're pushing online blogs and interactive calendars to make sure that the students know what's going on, so that we can work together to make sure events aren't clashing and that we can go to as many things as possible. And then finally, before I take questions from you, one of my other areas is that I think that we need to foster relations with the university. You might say we're an independent autonomous body, and we absolutely are. We're separate from the university, and I will always stand to maintain and protect the integrity of the union. However, we are in a partnership with the university. There is a lot of key goals that we will be aligned with the university to make sure that we can work together on key issues. And it's always good to have a partnership when we're trying to run events like Christmas Day or the Beach Ball, that we do have the support of the university when we're doing these events to the best of the students. So I realise I'm way over time. Looking forward to all your questions on these issues and more. And if you want something to talk about during the campaign, if you go onto my Facebook page, Dillon for President, my 6 keys areas are there. Have a look and ask me some questions on them. So thank you very much.
Okay, first question. Absolutely. Feet for hands or hands for feet?
I'm going to say hands for feet because I might be able to do a handstand then.
The second question relates to, I suppose, that you're the only person I'm asking. This year you're the Deputy President of the Union, and you're planning on running for the President. Last year we had the most candidates we've seen in executive elections to date, as far as I'm aware. This year we have only 4 contested positions. 2 of the sabbaticals are uncontested. Why is this? Is this a failure of the union to relate to the student body? And if so, how do you plan on fixing it?
I think this goes back to one of my key points. I think there is a key and core communication issue here. I understand that all student emails go out and that people are made aware of it, but I don't think there's engagement with all student emails. Most of the time you open it and you don't even want to get them, you just delete them. I think it's kind of going back to awareness and campaigning on the issue. The union should be taking a position that we will advertise these positions. We will run workshops for those that are interested. There probably is a disillusionment with what the role actually is and what you think the role is. And it's trying to align those key tasks to make sure that, look, if you're interested in doing something, that we provide workshops, you can talk to the current officers, that you can come to us and get informed what the role is and to encourage people to take part in it. The union won a national award for its Be Maynooth's Next Leader campaign last year. I think that needs to probably be ramped up a little bit, again, to make sure that anyone who's considering running has every available resource and information so that they can run a campaign if they want to. So I think it's down to communication, pushing out that students are made aware of what the role is and that they can run for it.
Was that done this year? And if not, why not? It's your job as deputy to do it, essentially. Anything that's not done by the president should be done by you.
I think it was done this year, but I think it was probably just left a little bit too late. And so we do have a video, we do have the emails, we do have a campaign and posted. But again, it was something that probably should have been pushed out a little bit earlier. So we can work on that. And as I suppose one of my constitutional roles as if I was elected president would be to come up with a plan of work and a strategy and a schedule for the year. So I'll be including that at the very beginning when we publish or when we make our big giant wall planner, that we can try with the returning officer, I don't know if you're going to be in next year, what's the situation, but that we can put down key dates on the wall planner, that that information is out there, we can get it out at an earlier stage. So yeah, it was communicated, probably a little bit too late.
Okay. Where do you stand on the repeal of the 8th Amendment, and do you think the upcoming campus referendum is necessary?
I think the upcoming campus referendum is necessary because it was the students that asked for it. The students, through the class reps and union council, mandated the Students Union Executive to hold a referendum. And I think it would be disingenuous for us to disregard the views of the students and not to hold a referendum. We're there to represent them, and our representative body on policy has asked us to hold one, and we will do. The union will have a neutral stance until the outcome of that referendum is published. So currently, the officers won't have a position on repeal of the 8, but when we are told by our student body what their view on the issue is, we will fight to vindicate the view that they hold. You did a lot of behind the scenes work this year. How will you make yourself more visible as president and ensure that students are comfortable approaching you? Absolutely. Probably one of my greatest shortcomings is that I'm not good at putting myself out there. I do like doing the background work that needs to be done. I would love if Sheena would run some sort of campaign to teach people how to do this stuff, because I definitely sign up to be as aware about these things. But no, definitely, it's a matter of, we do crossover training. I've identified as one of my weaknesses is not putting out there to the student population the work that I do. We'd be part of the communication strategy that we'd be putting in place, whether it be through the editor of the newspaper publishing my officer reports, whether it be through an online blog where I would write weekly or bi-weekly or monthly newsletters, It would be by putting up information on the website, Facebook's using the social media. It's just engaging with the facilities that are out there at a greater level than they've done this year. But I do recognise it, and I know it's one of the flaws, and I'm more than willing to work on it to make sure the information does go out there.
Speaking of putting yourself out there, this is the third different sabbatical position that you've put yourself forward for.
Yeah.
Why such a variance?
I think why such a variance because as time we develop and my interests have shifted and realigned themselves. When I was a student back in, I actually can't remember what year it was that I ran for VP clubs and socks. I've always been involved in clubs and societies. I was first year rep for business, vice president for business, president of business. I was vice president for the student training exchange program for ELSA, the European Law Student Association. I was president of the European Law Student Association. I held a committee position on Disney as well. So I've always been involved in clubs and societies, and it felt natural then to run for that officership. And at that time, the position of Vice President of Education didn't exist in the union, so I didn't have the opportunity or the eligibility to go for it. And then when it was created, after seeing the stellar work that Andy had done and being chair of the union council, it was something that appealed to me, and I saw that there was, no offence, some work that needed to be done with the class rep system, and as it fell under the remit of the Vice President for Education, I ran for that role. And now that I have devised what I think is the best strategy for student representation, which has gone through a lengthy consultation process. The Union Council has been updated 3 times, the Office of Student Engagement has been involved, the newly appointed Dean of Teaching and Learning has endorsed the project, the Vice President Academic Registrar and Deputy President of the University has endorsed the project. University Executive has been briefed on the new representative structures and have approved them and have recommended that I make a presentation to the university's governing authority on those issues. So I feel it's time to progress them and to look after, now that I fixed one area of the union, to move over to the governance side as opposed to I was on academics, and I'll move over to the other side of the union and try and have some change there.
Okay, coming back to this new structures. New structures still, it's not new yet, it's
still
still
proposed.
referendum. Yeah. So again, what happens if this all fails next year? Well, not even next year, it's the end of this year.
At the end of this year, yeah, absolutely. So the new proposals are going to referendum, hopefully, when you call them for around April 13th. If they are, not specific. if they are rejected, half the proposal can still go through. So the reform for the Union Council academic reps, that can absolutely go through. No constitutional changes there. It's still within the remit of the MSU executive to define the constituencies of class reps, and they can still take on board the suggestions of 1 per year per department, which would give you roughly 143. The requirement of the constitutional change is to create the Senate, and that would be transposing the powers that Union Council have with regards to governance and accountability across to a Senate. And it would have to be, again, I suppose, like some of the answers are the answers to the previous questions asked for the Education Council, would be finding out what was it about the proposals that you didn't like, why didn't you like them, and let's work to see if we can make a new system with the feedback that you have to see if we can fix the governance side of the house, I suppose.
Do you feel you'll be able to disconnect properly from the education? Because I'm just talking here about you essentially have a plan for how class reps will work when it's not going to be your job.
Absolutely, I 100% think I can disconnect, as there's a very distinct role. So the academic side will have 3 student faculty councils with nominees going to an academic rep council, and that's fine to deal with academic issues. I'll be very easily able to disconnect and move over to the student senate, as there will be a number of representatives from the executive there. You'll have internal appointees from the academic rep council, and there will be clubs and socks nominees across there, and there will be different interest groups. I have a wide variety of interests. I sit on the Green Campus Committee. There will be a Green Campus rep. If elected, I would sit on the Campus Life Committee. There will be a Campus Life rep there. I would be able to engage with the other offices in the union in this role. I've been involved in clubs and societies, so I'd be able to liaise with the club's council rep or the club executive rep, depending on how the structures go through. So I very easily be able to disconnect from academics to governance, as I was able to do with the structures, because I was able to see that there's a clear difference. And I'll put academics here, governance there. As with the job, I can leave academics as my VP education, and I can move over into governance next year.
You mentioned there that there's a lot of different subsections of the university, Green Campus, to name but one that you mentioned. How do you intend to promote a more diverse and representative union, age, gender, ethnicity, etc.? And how will you promote people from diverse and minority backgrounds to leadership positions in the union?
Actually, I think it's all about the communication and the engagement side of things. Like if the proposals are passed, there will be a huge awareness campaign about the positions available. I'll be engaging with people in the different roles. So if it was Green Campus, I'll be talking to the Green Campus ambassadors, the students that sit on that committee, asking them would they be interested, whether it's people from that would be sitting as MAP ambassadors from either here or there schemes, would be liaising with the MAP office, whether it be Rose Ryan, and trying to engage students through those means. And again, it'd be just going out and doing focus groups, engaging with the student engagement office, trying to get students involved. It would be a campus-wide consultative program. Like there's areas like the international office, the study abroad programs, the Erasmus Plus. All these students will be brought in because they have different understandings of how university works abroad, or their experiences from being in it, going abroad, and then bringing them back. So it's all about collaboration and working together. That's it.
Going back to your first point about representation, what do you do for a student who does not recognise the union as their representative body and they want to disaffiliate from the union but remain in the university? In England, you're mandated by law that this has to be enabled, essentially.
Absolutely.
You should have a facility. What would you do here?
Again, not to labour the point, it is an issue that occurs in a number of students' unions. That we're a representative body, and some people might not share the same view. I suppose it's trying to keep them engaged and trying to sit down with them and ask them what is it about the union that they don't want to associate with. See if there's something that can work out. Maybe they just don't realise what the union stands for. Maybe they don't realise the benefits of being in the union, and trying to see if there is a possibility for them to stay with us. If not, it would be a matter of trying to engage, to see what the process is. I'm not sure in Maynooth or in Ireland what the situation is for a student who wants to leave the union. I remember there was an incident in UCD, but as opposed to that was a number of years ago. I'm not sure what the situation currently stands if someone wants to leave. But again, it's a matter of showing them what the union has to offer, showing them that what they have available to them by being a member of the union, and again, asking them why they want to leave when they have these benefits.
In your eyes, what are the benefits of being in the union?
I suppose it's access to basically the student life. So like we provide, when we're building the new student centre, like there's going to be a lot of facilities that student money through the levy is going to be paid by. They can come in, they can use like our bar, they can use like our the restaurants, the printing press, the travel cards. You know, there'll be a whole range of different representative functions. I suppose if they decided to disaffiliate from us at the Students' Union and they then had an issue that they want to be represented on, well, I can't represent them because they don't, they don't see themselves as being a member of the union. So one of the key benefits of being the union, is my first point, is that student representation. If they have a problem with the department, they can't come to the Vice President for Education because, well, I would encourage them to do it, but technically speaking, if they weren't a member, they wouldn't be able to go to the Vice President of Education and ask them to be represented. If they weren't a member of the union, they wouldn't be able to go to the Welfare and Equality Office and ask for whether it be condoms or where to turn to for accommodation advice, or where do I go in situations where there might be where they might be in danger, or there might be situations where they can't go home, and even for fear of threats. And if they're not a member of the union, they don't have these facilities open to them because we provide services for our members, basically.
Okay. Do you believe your role is solely focused on student issues, or should you campaign on wider societal issues that are not directly relevant to students?
No, I think there's both to be done. I don't know if the person who asked the question has a particular topic in mind, but our key function is to represent students. So any issue can be a student issue. Like our president and welfare officer was over in Renton Hall speaking about a migration crisis, and like that might not necessarily affect anyone in Maynooth, but it's a wider, broader issue that students need to be aware of. There are our fellow students in other countries that have come over to us and have basically put their lives in jeopardy by trying to travel across borders to get here. There's issues like SAR, which is run by, not run, but it's promoted by the Faculty of Social Science, which is the Scholars at Risk. And Maynooth University this year are taking on 2 scholars who are at risk from persecution, death, imprisonment in their country. That's not going to have an impact on your day-to-day college life, but it definitely is an issue that your union as a collective student body can take an issue on to try and affect change on a national or international level.
is your stance on the USI referendum, and should we stay affiliated?
Again, I would defer back to my previous question in that I'm here to represent students, and we let the students decide. We are currently affiliated with USI. I think the more you put into USI, the more you'll get out of USI, and if you engage with them, you'll benefit from the returns of that investment. And if you don't engage, well, I don't think you can say USI aren't great if you're not putting anything into them. But it's a matter for the students. It is students' money that goes to pay the contribution, and the students on referendum on April 13th that you'll call for me, will give the students the opportunity to have their voice. And if they want to stay in, I'll be more than happy to represent the students and stay within USI and engage with, whether it be USI National Council, USI President's Working Group, USI Border, Midlands and Western Region groups. And if they decide that they do not want to affiliate, I will still continue work representing the students of Maynooth at local and national, as I was saying, maybe international level. And I'm a servant of the students, so at the end of the day, it's the students' call.
If we disaffiliate, what would you do with the excess money?
But there's a whole range of ways that money could do a lot in a whole load of areas. So that could go into clubs and soccer at a core capitation, it could go into clubs and socks, special events equipment application, it could go into could go into a welfare budget, it could go into an education budget, it could fund de-stress Maynooth, it could fund any of the campaigns that are run this year, it could fund extra staffing, it could alleviate pressure to increase services in the printing press. There's a whole load of areas that would that money is definitely needed for a union. And again, this goes back to student representation. If the proposals are passed, one of the jobs of the new Student Senate would be to approve our budget. My job as president would be to sit down with the accounts office and come up with a master plan, a master budget to be presented to the students. And if the students don't like if we didn't affiliate where the money was being spent, they would have a say to reappropriate it to any of the I suppose, different pots that I've outlined there. So again, it's bringing the students into the process and not just having a few people in the back office making the decision for them without consulting.
How would you fit a giraffe in a fridge?
Yes!
Is there a correct answer to this?
Open the door!
Always a good place to start.
Find a bigger fridge?
Yeah, I suppose I'd try and find a decent sized fridge for it.
Why did you originally run for the SU, and how has your experience changed your outlook on the position?
Originally run for the SU was in back my first ever clubs and socks, or
We'll go both.
okay.
Each time.
Clubs and socks for me was very strange. I decided to run kind of an on the spur of the moment thing. I'd always been involved, and again, it was one of those kind of things where people were saying, sure, you'd be good for the job, and I was kind of thinking about it, and I said, look, I'll give it a go. And I went for it, and I learned a hell of a lot. The first week of that campaigning, I tried to do everything. I had to get my t-shirts, I had to get my banner. I stayed up until like 2 a.m, at least 3 nights, trying to paint my Pokemon onto that banner that I hung off the flagpoles. And then after the campaigns were over, I left it in my accommodation and don't even have it anymore. But so there's different motivations. So I wanted to get involved with clubs and societies even more, and I wanted to help develop them. And then I lost out by 73 votes, and that was somewhat hard to take because it was a close race. But in the long run, it was beneficial. I had the experience of seeing what it was like to do a campaign, and then when the new position of Vice President of Education came in, it just fitted perfectly. It was a natural progression. I'd been a class rep, I'd been chair of Union Council. I'd seen some of the minor flaws that were in the system and wanted to change them, and that was the role I needed to go for to do it. And now that I'm proposing those changes, I feel like there's other places that need work, and I've outlined around 6 of my key areas. And now I want to move into the role that will allow me to fulfill those functions.
You mentioned, I suppose, this is your 3rd campaign.
Yeah.
But doesn't seem to be a very strong campaign. In the first day or two, there's very little visibility of Dillon President.
Mm-hmm.
Have you taken your foot off the burner, essentially, that you're the young candidate? Is Ron not an option?
No, Ron is always an option, and if students want to reopen the nominations, they always have the democratic right to ask for another candidate to run for election. I wouldn't be taking one off the ballot paper. I don't think I've taken my foot off the gas. It's a lot of work to get done when you're doing a full-time job, and there's a lot of different asks that need to be done. I have my t-shirts. I wasn't the first, but I was one of the first to get a banner up. I have all my posters up in the key areas on North Campus. I have some up in the South Campus as well. I have my manifesto and my points up on my Facebook page. I have been engaging with students. I've been on campus before 9 o'clock the last 2 days and doing class addresses. I was trying to work it out earlier. If there's probably 8 classes a day with 8 days, so I probably only get to 63 classes in my entire period of campaigning. I'm not going to be able to hit everyone, and so I will be relying on social media for that. But I do have a team around me that are trying to promote me as best they can. But as running as a candidate last year, I understand the time of year that it is. As one of the candidates mentioned previously, it is thesis time, it is dissertation time. I myself had to ask for an extension last year when I was running for the position. I understand the pressures that my election staff are under, so I'm trying not to ask and overburden them too much. I make myself available if anyone wants to ask me any questions, and I'm trying to put myself out there as best I can. And I suppose that's where I'm there.
Building on the time of year and how it's a very stressful time for final years, would be the majority of sabbatical candidates. Do you feel it's unfair for a current sabbatical officer to be run? For example, Trinity, while it's not against the rules there, it's very odd for the person to run for a second term of office. And indeed, their education officer is their returning officer, so
it would bar them from doing it.
Yeah. So would you see a similar policy would be advisable here?
I don't think so, because I think you'd be blocking people in the SU who have years of experience from running for another position. So there's a wealth to be gained throughout your year of being a sabbatical officer, and that wealth of experience and practice can be implemented in another role. Like, it took me a very long time to find my feet. As education officer, I sit on 22 different committees this year. You meet a lot of different people, whether it be the university executive, the deans, the office staff in the graduate studies office, or in the academic council offices, or in the governing authority offices. The first few meetings, you don't know really what's going on. You're figuring out who's chairing what's the culture, what can I say in this meeting. You're just barely getting to know people. Kind of as you kind of have one foot out the door, as your term is coming up to an end, you've just gotten comfortable with these people. You've just figured out, you can go up to the president now before the meeting begins and have a cup of coffee with him and have a chat. It's not a big, scary, daunting thing. And I think that to lose the experience, or to block someone from running who has the experience and is very comfortable then going into another role, would be a loss for the union. I think there's a lot of talented people that will come through the union and want to progress. So I don't think it'd be a good idea for blocking them. Give people all the choice that they can, and if sabbatical officers want to run, let them run, and if other students want to run, let them run. And as for the timing, that's your job to set it for us, and we'll go by what you set.
It's in the constitution.
Yeah, that you
not
set.
quite my job.
Well, you set it, and then we have a number of days afterwards. Yeah.
10-day period after the choice.
We picked the first day.
Yeah.
I know you laughed.
Oh no. How much money are you getting in sponsorship from Under Armour?
None, I wish I was getting some.
Why is it important to foster universities' relations when we are a separate entity?
I think it's a very good idea to foster university relations. While we are an independent, I've said it before, an independent, autonomous union, we always will be. I feel like if we don't foster some form of university relationships, there will be a situation where the roles do get a bit blurry. For the last 2 years, the union and the university have been trying to enter into a memorandum of understanding arrangement, which would set out kind of our roles and responsibilities to each other. And it started out as quite a short document, and then when I came into office, there was a 64-page memorandum, which is basically micromanaging the union from the university's aspect. That's not something that we want to have. The university shouldn't have any input into our political system. They shouldn't have any input into how we spend our money, other than that they give us X amount of euros multiplied by X amount of students, and that's it. But there is a need to have good relationships there, so that when we are planning key events, that we do know we can contact the Health and Safety Office if we need support, that we do know we can contact security when we need to provide security for events, that we do know if there's something that's needed on campus that we can contact campus services, and that we do know if there are issues that the university and the union will work together on key issues like students' quality assurance for their exams and their degrees, that we need to be able to work together as a partnership while respecting that the university has its role and the university and the union has its own role that's separate.
Since there are so many new sabbats running this year, how do you plan on helping them engage with their role and getting them working together?
Yeah, so great question. As a sabbatical team, when we come into office, we do 2, if not 3 weeks of crossover training. So that's where the incoming and the outgoing team sit down and talk about what they've done for the year, what their plans are. We go through training as how internal procedures work. We spend the time bonding, getting to know each other, our strengths and weaknesses. We do courses, whether it be public speaking or how to use Excel or how to make a presentation or how to negotiate. And that month of June is a crucial month to kind of gel and bond your team together. And I think it's just a matter of getting to know each other over that time, because you do need to make allies with your officers. You're going to be going into stressful situations with the university for different negotiations throughout the year, so you need to know that you have each other's back. And I think that's what the crossover training is for. And then just getting along and being friends with each other throughout the year, it's key. We have a good team this year, and I'm sure we'll have a good team again next year.
So you mentioned that the trainings there is in June, so essentially at that time you'll still be part of the current team.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you'll, I suppose, separate yourself from them while trying to introduce yourself to a new team without being part of the clique that currently exists?
So it's a matter of over the number of weeks we will have times where we... Pardon?
I'll click you in a minute. Whenever you want.
Over the period of the crossover training, over the 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be timetable slots where we do kind of passing over the torch. So if when I'm talking to the incoming education officer, I would set aside designated time where I'll be giving them my officer report, where I'll be explaining to them what work I have done, I'll be explaining to them where my work needs to, or what work that's ongoing needs to go, and helping them see how to fit in their plans and what contacts they need to make for them. And then separately, at a separate time in that week or the following week, I'll sit down with the outgoing president and be like, what can I do what have you done, what plans have you in place, what do I need to complete, and how can I implement my own stuff. So it's just a matter of separating the time and dedicating time for the incoming education officer and sitting down with the outgoing president.
What is your spirit animal? And why?
And why? Oh God, I know I think there's a strong feeling on probably Betty White, who's from Golden Girls. Very old at heart apparently, but yeah.
Okay. I'm going to move on, I suppose. What would you consider to be the failures of the union? As president, you have a lot of things that you want to address. Would you consider that they're failing at that at the moment?
No, I don't think we're failing in everything that we're doing. We do have a strong sense of what we are. We do have representation. It's just trying to enhance what we have. You can always do better. There's always strides you can make to improve. The problem would be that thinking you do everything perfectly, and we don't. We have to acknowledge that we do have key failings. And the class rep system is workable, but it's not fit for purpose in a college that has 11,000 students and is going to grow to around 16,000 students in 2019. We do have some communication issues. We do so much that it's very hard to publish and promote everything that we do. So it's trying to streamline and come up with a promotions and marketing strategy that allows us to tell the students what we do. So I don't think we do anything particularly bad. It's just trying to make what we do even better.
You mentioned transparency of accounts and financial transparency. Should we be worried that you're saying you can't publish this year's accounts? What's dodgy there?
There's nothing dodgy there. It's just standard accounting practice that you work a year behind because the accounts haven't been audited and signed off. It would be very imprudent if we were to publish our accounts that hadn't been seen by our auditor and signed off by our financial controller. So it would be best practice as any accountant when you go into real life and have to pay our bills, you work a year behind, and that's how revenue works, and that's the way the union works.
Cool. Move on to, I suppose I'm going to go postgrad for a while. This year, as education, postgrads probably would have fell under your remit to some extent. You would have had the postgrad feedback council and the subcommittee of academic council, whatever it's called, postgraduate international.
Oh, graduate international education studies.
Yeah. They're still relatively disconnected from the union. How is that going to change next year?
So, the Graduate International Education Committee this year is predominantly, mainly focused only with postgraduate funding, and their postgraduate funding options, which have been controversial, have gone through faculty and academic council and back down for discussion. So the Graduate International Education Subcommittee of Academic Council hasn't been liaising or dealing with anything other than funding. However, the Postgraduate Feedback Council has been. At the very beginning of the year, had representation of serious issues with regard to students registering, and I suppose it's to engage them more with the union about this to make us aware of it. So by the new structures, currently we have one postgraduate representative on union council, and they don't have speaking rights because they're the chairperson. In the new system, we will have a
Postgrad rep sits on union council. The executive.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, like a class representative. Sorry, obviously, I consider the executive members because they were held to account by the class reps there. So of class reps, we have one postgraduate and their chairperson. In the new structures, you'd have up to, I think it's 36 postgraduate students, and the Postgraduate Feedback Council have been included in discussions around this and are broadly supportive of it, and their members will sit. It would be the members of the Postgraduate Feedback Council that would sit as postgraduate representatives on ours, so there wouldn't be a miscommunication across, and that's at the request of the postgraduate students themselves.
This year you said that you said earlier on that the class reps defined the role of class reps, not the role, the
constituency boundaries.
Constituencies are decided by the executive, and yet you're saying this year there's no postgrad class reps. Yep. Is that your fault?
To some extent, yes, it is my fault. I put out the material this year as best I could. We had all students' emails, we had a stand at Clubs and Socks Fair, we did class announcements, we tried to encourage as many students to run for it as we possibly could. There are a number of vacancies, and predominantly there's a number of postgraduate vacancies. As much as I want people to participate, I cannot drag them kicking and screaming. But with the new system, when it has been endorsed by the Postgraduate Feedback Council, there is a much greater chance that postgraduate students will get engaged with something that their own feedback council has endorsed, as opposed to something that the union just does by themselves. I suppose that maybe why there's lack of engagement is that the constituencies just change from year to year, and there's inconsistency and uncertainty, whereas this year, or if the proposals are implemented, it'll be set. They'll know what they are eligible for, and they populate the Postgraduate Feedback Council, and thus they'll automatically populate then the postgraduate seats in our Academic Rep Council.
So what other candidate hustings have you attended?
Attended them all.
Cool.
Yeah, both daytime ones and last night's. Must be an education thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have to be there.
Yeah.
What is your favourite Pokemon and why?
Oh, definitely Raikou. There we go. What?
Sure. Come on.
No, it's Raikou. No.
And why?
And why? I don't particularly know why. I think there's some. I like the turtle. My mascot from my first election.
What's your position on the mega evolutions?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I feel like it's strange that you can mega evolve and attack at the same time. I think it just makes them overpowerful. I don't know.
How tough is this actually? What? That's not a point of information, that's a question. How tough will you be on part-time officers who are maybe slacking? How will you make the union stronger as a union and not just a strong individual character? Is it?
So it's again, I think it's part of the President's remit that the President is the Chief Officer of the Union. They provide the leadership and the stewardship, and they show the direction. They set out the plan of action. So at the beginning of the year, it's up to the President to come up with the plan of action. So that's sitting down with the sabbatical officers and the part-time officers and asking them, what are your goals for the year? Making the officers plan and have clear, concise strategies, and then it'll be up to me then to collate them then into one document that I'll present at the beginning of the year, somewhat like the State of the Union address in America, where I'll be setting out the union's stall and position on key matters and the campaigns that are going to be run throughout the year. And then it's a matter of sitting down with the officers as the year goes on and make sure that they are achieving what they set out to do, and encouraging them and providing the support and assistance and whatever facilities they need to be able to fulfill what they said that they're going to do at the beginning of the year. So it's not you're not doing this, you're getting in trouble. It's more of you're not. You said you're going to do this. How can I help you fulfill it?
What happens to people who literally just aren't doing what they're meant to do, what they said they do? Part-time officer attendance at exec is always an issue. There's always a few who disappear.
Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of depending on what our participation is like. If they miss their meetings and they don't send their apologies, they will have been deemed to resign from the executive. We won't be taking a position that students are going to be not represented because one of their officers is slacking. If they're not putting up the work, we're all held accountable to our constitution document. If you're not fulfilling your role you have to take the consequences, you have rights and you have responsibilities. As opposed to, it's just a matter of encouraging people to work then and trying to promote best practice within the union.
Did you not see it fitting this year to hold a careers fair, even though it's not constitutionally your job? Every other education, well, most education candidates today were saying that they would like to see a careers fair run by the education position.
What was the beginning of that?
Did you not see it fitting to hold a careers fair this year?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I think a careers fair would be a fantastic thing to have in Maynooth. It was one of the things that I said in my manifesto, that I promised that I would fix the class rep system, and after that I said I'd look at other key areas, and that was one of the areas, even though it wasn't in my remit, I was going to look at. I think it is highly important that we'd have one, and I think working with the new incoming education officer or the club and stocks officer, as it may be, to get it up and running would be a great thing for Maynooth. I'd very much like to see a system like Eric did for the clubs and societies fairs day, where you have a booth and it's already been specced out. We know that you can fit up to 66 stalls in the large sports hall and up to 110 in if you open the large and the small sports hall together. So we know the layout, we know the structure. It's just a matter of working with the incoming officers and the Graduate Studies Office and the Career Development Office and Graduate Ireland, if they're willing to get on board to populate those stalls. So it's just a matter of priorities. I promised the students that I was going to fix the class rep system. I got a mandate of, I think it was 2,400 or 2,600 votes to do that. So that's what I aim to do. And once I get that done, I will look at the other areas that I promised. Well, that I said I'd look at after I fulfilled my.
Coming back to that percentage, I suppose, or not percentage, numbers, national turnout elections, relatively, I don't know what the actual total was, about 60 something-ish, while 64, 65, cool. On campus last year we had record attendance, and I think it did it break 30%?
I think it was around there, yeah.
Around 30%. And yes, we've got a tiny campus here to poll compared to the national polling. How would you plan on changing that?
So again, it's a collaborative effort with the union running their awareness campaign, with the returning officer trying to run an awareness campaign, so it's like getting the information out there in advance. Like I think it's a shame that students who aren't on campus, whether that be because they don't have class that day, whether that be because they're on work placement, whether that be they're on a study abroad, aren't able to vote. I think there's probably a large population of our students that would like to vote that don't have a vote. So I think it would be very good to look at a system where students who aren't on campus get to vote. I know online voting is in other areas, I know there's some problems with that, but I think it's something that should be looked into. Our turnout may dramatically increase, or it may not shift if there was online voting, but it's something that should be looked at, and that might increase.
Well, the main reason, I'm pretty sure the main reason we had the big increase in the turnout last year is because the volume was over 2 days as opposed to one. But this year it got reduced back to one again. So since you were one of the I suppose, partly, do you know why it was reduced back to one, and your opinion on it being reduced back to one, and also on that, do you think that the voting, do you think it's a good thing that the voting should be extended? It's 9 to 6 p.m. right now. Do you think it should go till 10 p.m. like the general election does, especially in regards to students who only take evening classes? They might not be in during the day.
Voting's till 6:30.
Yeah. Till 6:30. Apologies.
I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but I think a lot of this is Andy's job. I don't have an influence over polling. I don't have an influence over. I think it is up to returning officer to conduct the elections unless there's a complaint to elections on the field. So I wouldn't want to be interfering with the independence of the returning officer, especially as a candidate. I wouldn't want to be seen to create conditions that might favour my candidacy. So I suppose I remained impartial on the issue of elections this year, as I knew I was going to be running, so I didn't want to be seen to be interfering. So maybe Andy might be able to answer. There mightn't be a question for now, but he might answer it afterwards, so at another point.
Dollar bills. Is side just President's decision. Anyway, what was the question now? Would you change it though? Do you think it should be held longer? Polling times, as in times are decided by me, but you're writing a new constitution, which I don't know what you're doing with the returning officer.
I think if there's going to be people late on campus, and I think if it's feasible, it comes back down to kind of a money situation. You'd have to go in, I'd have to go and ask the accountant's office, how much would it cost to open the polls, and is it worth spending students' money on that? If it's going to be something that it's not going to cost a lot of money, absolutely the polls should be open later. If we can get the staff, of course they should be open later. If it's what students want, absolutely give them all the opportunities to vote. If someone's not able to cast their democratic right to vote because they're not free until 7 o'clock and the polls close at 6:30, that's the denial that they shouldn't be given. If it's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to seriously impact the democracy of the union, I think it still should be spent to make sure that the students' voice is heard. Again, it all boils back down to the students. So again, with the new constitution, there will be a feedback consultation process, and if that's something that we're getting that needs to be opened up, absolutely to be considered.
Any questions? Do you think the MSU needs its own health and safety officer?
Well, I think the way the MSU operates is that the general manager and the president kind of assume the roles of the health and safety officer, and we do have people that advise us on that matters as well. We have externals that will advise on health and safety plans and different safety at work things. So I think it would be an unnecessary cost and an unnecessary expense on student money to be hiring a dedicated health and safety officer when we're currently doing the job very well, and that the funds don't need to be reallocated to employ a health and safety officer.
And we're going to finish up now. I think 2 questions left.
Okay.
Firstly, what do you feel has been your biggest achievement as education officer, and how would you carry this on as president, or would you? That's one question.
Okay. I suppose I can't really answer that because I don't really have one, because it's kind of a first and unequals. There's 2 kind of things, and it goes back to, I feel like that my achievements in coming up with the class rep system is huge. I think it's going to have a lasting impact on the union. I think the academic structures and the governance structures are going to outlive many of us and provide to serve the needs of the students of Maynooth very well. But I also think there's a lot to be said for the work that the education officer does, just as a student peer-to-peer service. There have been students that have come into my office after hours who felt that they could not go home for a range of different reasons, and it's being able to provide those students with, whether it be alternative accommodation or reassure them by other means that we will be there to help them. That I think we by helping one student, while it might not have a huge ripple effect on the rest of campus life, it has had a major impact on that student, and I'd be very proud to say that I've been able to help a number of students in those situations. So I kind of have to tie it in around like that.
Think about
Can I ask you to elaborate on your class reps policy that you're changing, or is that irrelevant to this current conversation?
I'm happy to answer if you have the time.
ish. Nice, really.
Well, I can do it very
It's
quickly.
mildly irrelevant as it's going up for referendum, so essentially, while it's an idea, it will be debated as a referendum standalone.
So would you mind explaining to me?
Go,
Okay, yeah.
give you 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Question.
Okay, so basically we'll be formalising the class rep structure. We'll be creating 3 student-led faculty councils, which is nominated to an academic rep council. They will provide the academic functions for support, feedback and communication to the university on academic issues. Then we'll be translating the purposes of governance and transparency over to a student senate, which will deal with student policy, governance issues, accountability and formulating budgets. So what we're doing is we're splitting the function of academic affairs over here and governance over here, which is exactly what the university has to do with regards to the Universities Act. So it's good practice to have separate institutions for the vote. How's that?
Final question, who is your all-time hero and why? They can be a fictional character.
All-time. They're fighting for it. My all-time hero and why? I genuinely think I'm going to have to go back and do something like Karen, our welfare and equality candidate said. And I think it'll have to be my grandmother. I know Karen said her mother, but I think it would have to be my grandmother would be my all-time hero. My parents were very young when they had me. My grandmother raised me as kind of her own son, and she's always been there for me in different situations. So I don't think there's any greater support I could have through difficult times than my grandmother. Not saying that anyone else doesn't provide support, but there's just some sort of special bond there between the 2 of us. So it would have to be my grandmother.
Okay, and we're going to finish up there. Do you want to make a closing statement? I'll give you up to 3 minutes.
I'll keep it very, very brief. I've outlined some of my main areas for you. I have 6 key points.
I'm keeping them simple, I'm keeping them achievable. I want to make sure that when we leave this union, or when I leave the union, that we have a solid structure for our incoming officer teams to build on. There's no point in building anything fantastic and flashy when the foundations aren't stable. We're going to put in the key core aspects and build on what the union needs, whether that's representation, whether that's transparency, whether that's better communication, whether that's building a better student centre from the very beginning. Something that I didn't say in my manifesto, in my speeches here, was that 19 million euros of student money that's going to be generated through the student levy is going to be spent on a new student centre. We have to make sure we get this right. It's your money, and it has to be done that we're building a building that's going to be suitable for you. No point in building a building that's suitable for 11,000 students or even 15,000 students, when in 2019 we're going to have 16,000 and it'll already be not fit for purpose. So if we're going to do things, let's do it right. I'd ask for you to vote for me, Dillon Grace, number 1 for President next Wednesday. The polls are open from 9 to half 6. So if I could have your first preference vote on that, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, please do contact me.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance at the Executive MSU Hustings 2016, and just to remind all candidates that polling is next Wednesday, the 9th of March, from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m, half 6 p.m, in John Hume, Arts Block and the Library Foyer. To vote, you will need your student card or proof of student registration. Is that a point of information about my speech?
I think it is. Say well done, Chair, on